There's nothing trite like a good redemption story. Emphasis on the good, though. And this might be my personal preference because redemption is always interesting, and a lot of my favorite villains are the ones I could basically see walking that line and eventually, with the right push, ending up on the good die side. But I also know that a lot of redemption stories, so told, fall flat. As in, it's almost like, hey, this person was on the bad die side, but now they're on the good die side. Nothing's really changed. So it's like, what's the point? And I think really that's the kind of thing is that a lot of people may just see it as, oh, this person was now on the bad die side, now on the good side. When I think there's a bit more to redemption stories that. And in fact, I think the key parts of it can often go unrecognized in a way. Because really, a true redemption story needs transformation and changing of ways. And sometimes that does look like a character making a U turn in how they've been operating. Because, well, they weren't doing right before, so now they need to do the complete opposite. And I think there's kind of this play in how do you do a transformed character but still make them the same character that people have come to know. And I think there are ways to do that, and it's just kind of interesting because again, they may not did it right all the time, but they may be trying to change, and that can actually be interesting to look at. But that may also be part of the reason why a lot of redemption arcs tend end in a character sacrificing themselves. As where once they were selfish, now they are selfless. And once where they were bringing harm to others, now they are putting themselves in harm's way to protect another. But there may also be another reason for that. And it has to do, as I put forth, is that there's kind of that struggle when you're transforming or trying to change. And forgiveness can be a funny thing, as at least with how we treat it, as we often desire forgiveness the most when we ourselves have messed up. But when someone else has wronged us, it's almost what we want to withhold from them the most. We want them to suffer as they've caused us to suffer, in a sense. And the thing is that when, like, the supervillain has suddenly changed, it's like the sacrifice play lets them sort of show that they've changed or transformed, but also not have to deal with the kind of questions of, wait a minute, do we have to now punish them? Can we let them fight with us? How's this all going to work? Do they just let us start free? Do we actually trust them, or are they just putting on an act? What will other people say about this? Can regular people forgive them for what they've done? Is there some people who want to see them pay a toss that they've come up with in their own minds, and thus until that toss is paid, they're just going to oppose them no matter what, and oppose us as well? So I think not having to deal with that kind of all those questions is why a lot of the stories end up in sacrifices. But the truth is, most of us don't really have to forgive supervillains in our everyday lives. And I think just working on forgiving others and the redemption arcs of others can be interesting in and of itself in our own lives. And the first kind of point I want to make has to do with kind of how many times we forgive someone. In Matthew 18:21 through 22, Peter goes to Jesus and asks, okay, if my brother offends me, how many times do I forgive him? I'm thinking about 7. And Jesus says to him, no, it is 70 times 7. And yes, I saw the VeggieTales episode, so I know it's 490. But that isn't just saying that, okay, once it hits 491, you are free to go scorched earth on him. No, it's basically being willing to forgive as much as is needed. And to kind of demonstrate that, Jesus then tells a parable right after this. And it is about a servant who is in debt to his master and has no way to pay that debt. So he begs forgiveness from his master. And the master actually forgives him his debt completely, scot free, doesn't have to pay it. But then that servant does a funny thing. He goes to another servant who owes him a small debt, much smaller than what he owed his master. But the thing is that he is like, hey, you owe me and you haven't paid up, you're going to prison. And when the master finds out what that servant did, he is mad because again, here he forgave this huge debt to the servant, but that servant turned it basically pass it on in the same way. And so what he does is basically say, hey, since you didn't forgive him, now you're going to pay the price. And this kind of brings up this saying where there's another point to it in that we can holding on to grudges is not really the best thing for us. And again, there's more to it than just the forgiving others as we've been forgiven. But the thing is that sometimes, well, it's cliche, I know, we can end up drinking poison hoping that it harms another person. That's basically the cliched way to refer to hatred. But the thing is, it really does do that. Whereas when we start focusing on revenge or getting even, or how much someone has wronged us, it can end up hollowing us out inside. And again, we're almost giving like rent-free space in our head to someone who may not even realize they've done us any wrong, or maybe it's just a Tuesday for them and they do wrong stuff to everybody, but they don't really care. So it's like, what benefit does it give us to basically live our lives in such a way where we're focused on it when we can just let it go? And maybe that's the best way to refer to forgiveness, as letting it go. But again, sometimes we have this thing where we're dealing with someone and whenever we forgive them, they'll just do the same thing they did to us again. And so how do we deal with that situation with someone who doesn't really want to change? Well, actually, before Peter came up with his bright idea, in Matthew 18:15-17, Jesus actually listed out a way to confront people. And it started with actually first communicating with them. And that isn't just typing up a strongly worded email and pressing send. It is actually going face to face with them and being in relationship with them so that you can actually talk it out and try to reach an understanding of what's going on. The next step after that is to basically bring in a couple witnesses or third parties who can basically either offer another perspective to be like, hey, you're just not seeing eye to eye, you both want the same things, so here's how to bridge the gap, or to at least say, hey, yeah, there's an issue here that needs to be dealt with. The third part is to actually go to a leader, someone you would both respect or see as a neutral party, so that basically, hey, something's going on, we need to confront this, and so forth. And it's only after that where you basically are like, hey, I need to just let you go. I don't have to do life with you anymore. And Jesus basically says to basically treat them as you would a stranger or a publican. So basically, like a tax collector or whatever, how you would treat a legal matter. So it's like, I guess it gives room for damages to be sought if it's a case like that. But it's also like saying, hey, they're still being in society, but you don't have to stow scorched earth and try to ruin their lives because you've been wronged. And I think that's kind of where that sweet spot is, because sometimes we do have these cases where our forgiveness is almost giving someone free rein to walk all over us, in a sense, to do whatever they want to us. And I think there's a point where it's like, hey, you aren't going to change this way, so I'm going to let you go for now so that whatever process you're in can be seen to its fruition. Because again, sometimes people won't change until they're at the precipice of seeing all the consequences of what they've done fall upon them. And sometimes they actually don't really want to change until they're actually hurtling towards those consequences. But the point is that there comes a time when most people want to change, whether they will choose, well, when they will see the consequences for their actions, I should say, because they may still decide that they want to keep doing what they want, even when the consequences are coming. But that's the thing, is that sometimes you just have to decide to let it go and let it be and be like, hey, I don't have to really do life with you, but I won't do after you either. But that's kind of where I'm at with it. But do you have any ideas on how we should treat someone who won't change? Why not share them in the comments below? And if you enjoyed this video, you can like and share it so that others may enjoy it as well. And if you continue enjoying this content, you can also subscribe so that it can also go out to more people as well. Anyway, I'm Jonah, and you've been watching Lions Mane Media, where we celebrate stories and the lessons we learn from them. Talk to you later, and have a great rest of your day.